Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I am fabulous. Is there no PowerPoint?
Are you not seeing it in there for tonight?
I'll try it again.
Oh no.
Nope. I see Reach for the Stars PDF and then the
That's
resource
it.
one. The PDF.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Then it's there. Sorry for the worry.
Okay. Are you able to open it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm turning all the pages.
Dr. Grisham Brown is coming tonight, who wrote the Reach for the Stars curriculum in the book.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You have such good connections.
That's the only thing I can add to this field, to these classes, is I know people.
No, that's not all you had. You're not allowed to sell yourself short with that
Mm,
compliment.
I have a lot to learn, but I
So do
enjoy. Um, hmm. I got everything graded so far.
mine was graded
Mm-hmm.
long ago. I didn't get an F. I was shocked.
Not even a D.
Not even a D. I must have really fixed that good when it fell apart. I keep
Hmm.
looking at it going, ugh, I still need, I took it into the office because I have a student that we added another student who's doing the monthly books. Oh, I don't have my, um, so because I already had that comprehension piece with that,
Hmm.
it was like, okay, so I can give him all of these pieces for his student to do this because he hasn't done it yet. But I'm like, I gotta fix that somehow before because he's not gonna want it in his room like that. So I'm gonna work on that. I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Grisham.
Misty, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see your smiling face.
Yours too. How are you getting around?
I'm doing better. I yesterday in PT she told me I only had to use the cane if I was like in a crowd or was walking a long distance. So
That's good.
yeah, that was nice. That was very nice. I'm sorry, I'm cleaning the printer heads on my printer. It'll be done in a second. I don't know if you can hear that noise or not.
I cannot hear it. Nope.
Good.
And you get excited about retirement? Like it's right around the corner.
It is. It is, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of things for the last time, and it's kind of cool, I guess.
Kind of sad too, but cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
bittersweet.
hmm How many students do you have in this class?
We have about 15,
hmm Cool.
and they are awesome students. They ask really good questions.
I don't know that I will take the whole 2.5 hours. I don't know if that's an issue or not.
Not an issue. Nope. We got lots of things we need to talk about as well. So,
Mm.
yep. And they're all teachers for the most part. So they've had a full day of teaching and now they're online with us. They
And
never
I've got
complain.
sports banquet in an hour that I have to be at.
Mhm. Are you okay, Dr. Grisham, if I record?
That's fine.
Okay. And you'll notice we live stream to YouTube as well. And we have a captioner, a live captioner, because we have a student in our class that is deafblind. And so
Okay.
she accesses materials better through YouTube than Zoom,
Okay.
but she will also be on
Okay.
in person. So it's 5 o'clock. We're gonna start class tonight. Um, we're still waiting on a few people to join us, but while they come on in, I'm going to introduce you to the wonderful Dr. Jennifer Grisham Brown. She is a professor at UK, and she has also been the lead coordinator on the Deafblind Project. You can talk a little bit more about your amazing background, but she also has authored Reach for the Stars that we talked a little bit about last semester in our intro class, and she's going to talk more about it tonight. So this is an old book of it, and I'm sure she will share about all the wonderful stuff. So I'm going to let her um, just take over, share her
Yeah.
wonderful knowledge.
Yeah. Maybe while we're doing that, maybe everyone can introduce themselves to me real quick and tell me where they are and what they're doing.
Yeah. Lainey, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself. Yes. Hi, my name is Lainey Reed. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I am a preschool teacher at Visually Impaired Preschool Services. My first year at TVI.
Oh, awesome. Nice to meet you. I love Bibbs.
Me too.
Yep. Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Alyssa, and I am a first year TVI as well in Jefferson County Public Schools in a vision resource room.
Oh, what's that like? I don't know that I've ever heard of that before.
It's basically just where we have our students that are visually impaired, they're at the school, and then we just are able to provide access to whatever they need all the time instead of being itinerant. So we have a whole room, like a closet full of different things, and then there's also an on-site O&M teacher as well. So It's really nice for students that need a little more services every day that we can just provide right then and there instead of them having to wait for their itinerant teacher. And it's been really fun because I get really close with the kids and building the relationships with them. And yeah, it's been a really good learning experience too, because there's another TVI in the room with me as well. So I'm able to learn from great people.
Wow, that's very cool. Very
And she
cool.
also has an O&M that's in the room as well.
Mm,
So that's not very often you get that wonderful mix of people
yeah.
together.
And what's the age level for that?
I'm in a middle school, so it's sixth, seventh, and eighth. And in our county, we have one resource room for elementary, and then one school with a resource room for elementary, middle, and high. And the students can live anywhere in the district, and then they can get transportation to that school if they prefer to get their vision services in a resource room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm Tom. I'm in Bell County. I'm actually at school right now because, like I said, we've got our sports banquet in an hour. But I currently teach science and social studies to fifth through eighth grade.
And you're studying to be a TVI?
Yes,
Cool. And is that
even though I am a disaster this semester. It has been rough.
It's almost over, Tom. You've not been a disaster. Teresa?
I'm Teresa. I teach in Detroit, Michigan. This is my first year as a TVI, and my previous background was a teacher for students with severe multiple impairments.
Mhm. Okay.
Tracy?
I'm old and just decided why not a fourth degree. Um, I've taught gen ed, special ed, unit, collab. Um, I was at KDE for a couple years, and this is my first year as TVI.
Awesome.
And I'm sorry, I'm in Independence, which is in Kenton County, and I
Mhm.
work in Kenton County. So I'm up north, not as far north as a couple people in this class. Or are they not in this? They're in this one.
Chris?
Hi, Chris. First year TVI in Franklin County. Previously was LBD, MSD, and I did do gen ed for a few years, 4 years, I think. Yeah.
Where do you teach, Chris? I live in Franklin County.
Well, I'm itinerant, so I go to a lot of the different schools. I go to
Mhm.
most of them.
Do you live in Frankfurt?
No, I live in Lexington. Yeah.
Mhm.
Audrey?
I am a first year TBI. I work in Hancock and Ohio counties. And before this, I taught preschool or Head Start for 12 years.
Great.
So, Ohio County might sound familiar because
Mhm.
there's a very popular student on the Deafblind Project in that county.
Mhm.
Emily Johnson.
Oh, okay. I was like, Emily who? Okay. Came in a few minutes like. I'm Emily Johnson. This is my first year as a TVI, but I'm not full-time TVI. I do MTSS for preschool, and I'm the TVI here in Estill County. Before this, I was a full-time IECE teacher for preschool. I think that's all I'm supposed to say.
Mhm.
Macy.
I'm Macy Fluter. I am a first year TVI at Greene County.
Thank you, Macy.
All over the
Kate.
state.
They are yes. And we have two students from Michigan in here that you
Wow.
met, Teresa, and the other one is on spring break this week, so she's not here. But Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie. I am currently I'm pursuing initial certification, so never been a TBI before, first time teaching. And I'm from Rochester, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Olivia.
Hello, I'm Olivia Roberts. I'm currently an MSD teacher in Jefferson County, so moderate to severe disabilities. And I've been doing that for 17 years total. But hopefully, I interviewed for a TVI job this week, so hopefully I'll join the TVI world, teaching world next school year.
Awesome.
Yes. And that is everyone that is in our class so far. One person said they were going to be late. One person's on spring break, and Dr. T sometimes has technology issues. She's the one in the deafblind certificate program.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She lives out in Frankfurt, and sometimes she has internet issues
Oh,
out
really?
there in her beautiful horse country that she lives.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And you're gonna have to give me sharing privileges.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
No problem.
There you go.
Okay. Well, to introduce myself, I'll just show you all kind of a slide that tells you a little bit about who I am and what I do and what I represent. Somebody said they're old. Well, I'm really old. In fact, I'm going to be retiring in July after 42 years in education. I began my career working in, can you all see that? Okay. I
Yes.
began my career working as a teacher for children with multiple disabilities, including some children who had deaf blindness, which is how I got involved in that world many, many years ago. I went on from there to run an early intervention program before early intervention was actually even required by law, and then left there to become the project coordinator for the Kentucky Deaf Blind Project. And so I've been involved with that work since I came to UK 35 years ago. I got my doctorate at UK in early childhood and special education, and I've been teaching and I've been on faculty since then. So I've maintained that work in working with children with low incidence disabilities. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you all tonight, and Misty, maybe you can get a link to it, is that in June of this year, for those of you who are working in early childhood, we have a special training that we do that is focused on working with children with low incidence disabilities that are in early childhood programs. It's a really intense 4 days of training. You get some free materials and you get to, work on a case or work on a child that you are currently working with. And so it's all completely free. All of your housing is paid for. It will be in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's called the Climb Training. And so, if you need professional development hours for next year and you're really, really interested in working with that population, then hopefully Misty can share some information with you about that. And then the second thing I'll share with you that maybe Misty has is that Misty was one of our first graduates of our deafblind certificate program. And so if you wanted to add some additional courses and get extra training in working with students who have deaf blindness, then we can also provide you with some information about that. So this is just a montage of kind of all of the work that I do. You can see me here with Donna Carpenter. You all probably met her this semester. Donna is now the project coordinator. I'm the principal investigator, project director for the Deafblind Project. But I wear a lot of different hats. I teach in the interdisciplinary early childhood education program, where I train people to work with children that are birth to 5 with and without disabilities. I'm also the faculty director of the Early Childhood Lab, which is an inclusive early childhood program for children with and without disabilities. That's a campus-based program on UK's campus. So every single day I get to spend time with children with and without disabilities, and so that's really special. In the area of research, most of my research really started when I was when I was teaching because I was very, very concerned about children with low incidence disabilities who were getting poor assessment results. And so I have been working for decades now to try to improve assessment processes for young children and for those with low incidence disabilities. And to that end, that's part of the work that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the importance of gathering information from families when we are doing assessments of young children or of children who have low incidence disabilities or multiple disabilities. Also, co-developed an assessment and curriculum-based assessment that has a curriculum associated with it that is used widely throughout the United States. And my research has most recently evolved around adapting that assessment tool in a variety of different places. You see me with some of these groups here where I've worked in. I just started a project in Argentina. This was a project I did in Bulgaria. This is a project I did in Kosovo. And then I have an ongoing project in Spain where I'm trying to support inclusion of young children and also by using our curriculum-based assessment. And so we are adapting the assessment tool in different languages and for use in different cultures to support the inclusion of children with disabilities. So that's kind of where my research is right now. And some of those are pretty darn nice places to be able to travel and do research, I have to say. I just got back from Spain last week, and I love it there. The bulk of my international work, though, is in a little country in Central America called Guatemala. And I go there because this handsome young man here who turned 27 yesterday is my son. And I have founded a preschool and children's home and literacy program for children in Guatemala City. And so each year I take a group of students there for an education abroad experience. And even though I'm going to be retiring, that opportunity will still exist after I leave, and Dr. Amy Spriggs, who's one of our MSD faculty, will be continuing that program. So that's another opportunity that you all can get involved in if you're interested. And then this is my other family. I was remarried a couple years ago and now have this beautiful extended family that I'm very proud of. So that's a little bit about me and what I do. Again, my passion has always been about the way that we describe children and the importance of making sure that when we make decisions about children, that we are in fact, depicting who those children really are, and that those children are not a score on an assessment, that those children, especially the children that you all focus on in this particular class, those with multiple disabilities, it's impossible to get a quote unquote test score on those children and be able to say anything meaningful about what it is that we need to do with them when we work with them in our classrooms or if we serve them as a TVI. And so many years ago, I got involved with work that's called person-centered planning. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a second. And that work has evolved into the book that Misty showed you all called Reach for the Stars. And so that's what I'm going to present on tonight. And it's really a way of getting the family's voice into that assessment process so that we get to know children through the family. So let me start out by talking about Reach for the Stars. And you all should have, I believe, a copy of the PowerPoint. And I want you to feel free to, to ask me questions and stop me anywhere along the way. For some reason, all I can find is the PDF. And so I'm going to have to work from this, but hopefully you all have got that you can follow along with. So many years ago, when I first started working at UK and I first started working with children who are deafblind, we were really interested in those children's transition from secondary to adult life. And we were really hoping that what could happen is that once they left high school, that they would have a meaningful life as a young adult. And so we were doing some really intense planning with the families of these young adults. And what we were finding is that it was very difficult for those families to think about a positive future for their young adult sons and daughters. And much of that, I believed at the time, was because for many, many years, sometimes for a couple of decades, those families had heard only negative things about their sons and daughters. And so I was really interested in, with a colleague at the time, at trying to help families conceptualize what a future would look like for their sons or daughters, and to start thinking about that when their children were young. You know, even children that were in early intervention, as young as that. And so we started, therefore, doing and developing this process that we call Reach for the Stars. Are you seeing the slides here, Misty?
Yes.
Is it showing up? Okay, okay. And so this is what you see here. Reach for the Stars was published initially by the American Printing House for the Blind. And so it was a product, actually, that people who had children that were on the blind registry could access. It was a teaching tool that they could access just like they could a light box or any of the other resources that you get through APH. A couple of years ago, APH decided they were not going to revise Reach for the Stars. And so we now are looking at having another publisher who is going to be publishing it. But right now, because the copyright has lapsed on it, the materials are free for you. And if you are interested in using the materials, then I'll tell you at the end how you can get a complete copy of the materials. But before I get into what Reach for the Stars is about, I want you to think about the evaluation information that you may have gotten on a child who is blind, visually impaired, and has multiple disabilities. I'd like you to think about the IEP goals that are sometimes written for those children, and also about the process that perhaps you've gone through or you've been part of, where information has been shared about those children. And I'd like for you to think about that for a second, and then I want to have a bit of a discussion about what that looks like. So just jot down some notes for a second, and then we'll talk. All right, what have some of your experiences been when assessment and evaluation information has been shared about a child that you're working with? Or what do you think that was about? How do you think that was for the family?
You're talking about evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just had one today where we did a meeting for evaluation results. And I mean, this mom, we just kept trying to, you want to go in and explain at the level because they're not in this field. They're not,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end, it was like, okay, that was a lot. I'm sure it was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, this is all just making so much sense now. So she felt a little overwhelmed, but at the same time, we talked through a lot of it. So I think she felt a little better than
Mm-hmm.
she would have.
I'm glad to hear that, Tracy. And that's a word, when I ask that question of families, that's a word that they often use. They will say that they feel very, very overwhelmed at the amount of information that is being, given to them about their son or daughter.
One, I've always, in whatever I've been teaching, made sure that I talk to the parents in just plain speak. And I think that's super important.
Yes. Yeah. Others.
This is Lainey. Um, Being a TVI, this is the first time I've had to deal with IEPs. In the class I have this year are very young. They're all threes. And so when I've had meetings, um, it's like their goals were set by someone, who spent maybe 30 minutes with them. And then like, really I mean, and so I had a parent that was upset because there wasn't much progress made. I was like, I didn't make these goals for your child. So that's a
Right.
little frustrating.
Yes, that oftentimes happens where evaluations occur and then someone, like you say, that you said it really well, someone who doesn't know the child really well, has not spent a lot of time with them. And we're talking about kiddos that, have pretty unique ways in which they need to be communicated with,
Right.
that materials needed to be presented to them, and all of those things. And so when that happens, then especially when they're really young, the expectation that we're not going to get good information is probably pretty high. Anybody else?
This is Chris. I think they're really intimidated, and because, like Tracy said, they don't work in this field, they don't know what questions to ask, so they just kind of sit there. That's why, like, I try to call the parents before meetings and kind of get their input on goals and kind of give them like a briefing of the meeting so they can ask the questions that they need to. But I do think they get really intimidated.
I see some heads nodding, so others of you all agree with that. Anybody else? Two days ago, I was sitting in my office, and one of our teachers was having a meeting with a family of a little boy that goes to our center who has global developmental delays. He's not deafblind or visually impaired, and this is a mom who has a teaching degree, that used to be a teacher. So this is a mom that's educated, that knows some things. And I was sitting there listening to the person that was facilitating that meeting, and my anxiety level was just going up, 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 because I felt like it was, for lack of a better word, it sounded like word vomit to me. I mean, it was just like, it's just like, I wanted to say, take a breath. And the mom, at some point, she had a very clear idea about what she wanted to say. I had talked to her ahead of time, but she felt so overpowered. And the word that she used was, she said, I felt like I was being so talked over in that meeting. And I think that that's how our families feel a lot of time. And it does my heart so good to hear those of you who are saying, I talk to the family ahead of time. I get some ideas from the family about what they're interested in. And it was because of that feeling where I would, for years, go, with families to IEP meetings or evaluation meetings. And I would have that feeling where it was like, we used to call it the cast of thousands, where, the family is sitting there at the table, sometimes completely by themselves. And then one by one, each member of the team says, this is what's wrong with your child. And then one by one, they say, this is how we're going to help your child. And then at the very end, somebody turns to the parent and says, do you have anything you want to add? Now, that's an extreme example, but that's what I saw a lot of times. And so the Reach for the Stars was really born out of this idea to empower families, to help them feel like that when they went to that meeting, that they felt like that they had a true voice and that they had their thoughts collected, they knew what they wanted to say, they had their paper in front of them, and they were ready to be able to articulate what their hopes and dreams are for their children. And so, this notion of putting the power back into the hands of the family, to putting it back into the hands of the child if they're older, comes from this notion of what we call sort of a new way of thinking about what planning is. And that new way of thinking about planning is where we are focusing instead of on everything that is wrong with the child all the time and what their weaknesses are. In the meeting that I heard the other day, I heard the facilitator, I think that's what they call him in this district. I heard the facilitator say, on this test, he got a 50 in this area, he got a 40 in this area, he got a 30 in this area, he got a something else in this area. So therefore, he's FMD. Those are her exact words to this parent, who had just told me the day before that her son looks at the tile in the classroom and says, "Mommy and Poppy," referring to the fact that the tile in the wherever he was the same as his grandparents, whose house he'd been in a half a dozen times. And they're saying this child has got functional mental disabilities. And so she was just really heartbroken to hear this information. And so, what we're suggesting is that with this type of planning, this new way of planning, that we focus on what we call in Reach for the Stars a child's gifts and contributions instead of just focusing on those scores. And then instead of just turning to the family at the end of the meeting and saying, "Do you agree or do you disagree? Or do you have anything to add?" That in fact, we are actively involving families in this entire process, and that we're basing the services that we provide to the child on informed choice instead of just saying this is what is available and this is what you're going to get. And so years ago, many, many years ago, um, someone coined the term person-centered planning. And person-centered planning is not just what happens in an evaluation meeting. It's not what happens when we have an IEP meeting, but it's rather this ongoing problem-solving process that we're trying to use to support families so that we can do what is best for their children. It involves a team of people who are willing to take action on behalf of the child and the family. So when we're gathering information for Reach for the Stars, we're not necessarily just gathering it from the family, but from other people who know that child, who care about that child, who have a voice or have a role in that child's life. And what we do is that this is an ongoing process. And so we're trying to, as new opportunities and new obstacles arrive, we're trying to take action on those new obstacles and those new opportunities. What this does is that it helps us support positive transitions for children with disabilities. And so when we first developed Reach for the Stars, the primary focus population was for children who are transitioning from early intervention to preschool and from preschool to kindergarten. However, since developing it, we now are using it with children across all of the age groups to help support any of those transition periods. And Reach for the Stars is a very, for lack of a better word, warm and fuzzy kind of process. Everybody feels good when they do it. But what we're trying to do with Reach for the Stars is not just talk about and put our head in the sand about what's going on with this child, about the fact that they have a vision loss, that they have an intellectual disability, that they have maybe are deaf, hard of hearing. It's not just about ignoring those things, but I love this term. It's balancing their dreams and visions of the family with positive and possible goals. So it's using the information that we gather from Reach for the Stars so that we can develop a plan. And in this case, we're talking about the IEP, which is the legal document that we have, so that we are able to develop those goals for the child and actually create a plan so that works for the child. So there are two ways that person-centered planning is different from other kinds of planning. And the first way that it's different is in how we describe people. And so with traditional, conventional planning, we are focusing on those labels. And so yesterday I heard your child has Down syndrome, your child has functional mental disability, or your child might have a mild disability, or your child has a physical disability, or I heard this term, your child is 3 standard deviations below the norm. What does that mean to a family? Okay. And so we invest a lot in standardized assessment testing when we're doing traditional assessment. And we're relying on those professionals, as somebody said, who may have only seen that child for 30 minutes. And what happens as a result of that is that we see the child as part of a human service system instead of seeing them as part of a community. And when we do that, we distance the children that we work with from other children instead of trying to include them with other children in their community. So, what we want to do is to see the child as a child first, which we talk about that all the time in the field of disability, where we're searching for their capacities. There is something special, unique, talented about every child that I've ever known in my entire career. So, how do we get that information into the documents, into the conversations that we're having about children? How do we get to, and we do this by getting to spend time with the family and others that know the child well, instead of just relying on those people that have met the child only recently. When we do this, we begin to see them as part of a community and not just a human service system, and therefore we bring children together. We support the inclusion of our children with disabilities into the lives of other children. So I'm going to give you an example of a little girl that was at our school many years ago. This little girl was first described to us, excuse me. This is the end of a very long day for me, so do apologize if I have to take sips of water. This little girl was described to us actually by her father, who happened to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. So he was very, very steeped in that conventional medical way of thinking. And so some of this comes from him, some of it comes from some testing that we saw in the child. But I'm going to read these descriptors. I know you can read them, but I'm going to read them for emphasis. They told us that this little girl had moderate and severe disabilities, that she had cortical visual impairment and auditory impairment, which is what we would call auditory processing now. She had seizures. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She couldn't touch. She couldn't function without assistance. She had lots of needs. She was not toilet trained. She was 4 standard deviations below the norm. I'd never seen that before. And she had lots of medical needs. I want everybody to turn their camera on. Make sure you've got your cameras on right now
Hold on, excuse me. It's Tracy. Can I ask how old was she?
She was 3.
Okay, I was just curious.
3.
I might have missed.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I said it. So I want to ask you all, if you were the general education teacher, how many of you all would be jumping up and down with excitement to get this child in your classroom? Well, Tracy would, but most of the rest of you would not. And even our teachers that have worked with children with many different types of disabilities were quite nervous to get this child, especially when you start talking about the medical needs. And so when she got ready to transition out of our school and into kindergarten, I sat with her parents. I talked to her teachers and I said, we cannot present this child, Sydney is her name. We can't present her in this way to the kindergarten classroom. And so, using a person-centered planning process, this is the way that we described this same little girl. She loves music. She loves sensory activities that are soft and squishy. She loves to stand and walk and make noise and sing. She likes to eat jello and syrup, even though her parents said not together. She likes to be at school and she likes her friends. She tells you what she wants. She is assertive. She's adventurous and she loves being held. And so now, if I were to ask you, how many of you all would be excited to meet this little girl? How many of you would raise your hands? So sometimes it's all about the way that we describe. It's a shift in thinking about who this person is. It's the same child. She still has vision and hearing loss. Still has motor disabilities, but now I start to see her as looking like some of the other children that are in my classroom that share some of the same interest. I see now that she does have a way of It may not be the same way that others communicate, but she does have a way to communicate. And so, one of the primary ways that person-centered planning is different than system-centered planning or conventional planning is in the way that we describe the children that we're working with. The second way the second way that it is different is in the way that we actually do the planning. And so, how we actually do the planning. So, oftentimes, as I've already described, we do the planning for the child and for the family. We rely on those professionals to give us descriptions of the children and to make decisions. We have meetings that are held in professional locations that sometimes are not comfortable for families. We work with a lot of families that are, I have one of the grants that I have at UK right now is to train our providers to work with families who are experiencing substance use disorder. And their children, they have been impacted by neonatal abstinence syndrome. These families are fearful of, offices and authority and all of that. And in fact, we found amongst that population that many times children don't receive early intervention services because of the fear that the family have. And guess what? With neonatal abstinence syndrome, there is a high percentage of chance those children are going to have vision loss. And so we need to make these experiences that these families have as comfortable for them as possible. And so, what we want to move toward is planning with the family, relying on the people that know the child well, having meetings and holding in venues that are comfortable for families, and making our decisions not just based on test scores, which I'm not. I've been doing this for 42 years. I know they're a necessary evil for children to get. But if a child has got multiple disabilities, that child is going to continue to qualify for services. It doesn't matter what tests we do, they're going to qualify. So why don't we spend some of our time evaluating children in a way that we get good information about them so that we can make good plans for them? That's what Reach for the Stars is all about. So, Reach for the Stars. Reach for the Stars actually has 4 elements to it. And so I can't tonight talk about all of the elements of it. I'm going to talk about 2. There are four elements. Assessment, which is gathering information about the children. The second element is scope and sequence, which is trying to figure out what it is we're going to teach. What are the priorities for this particular child? And then the process goes on to help you to develop plans for the child through activities and intervention. So how do we develop an intervention plan? And there's also guidance in Reach for the Stars for how to collect progress monitoring data on our children that have low incidence disabilities. And so we're just going to talk about the first 2 elements tonight. So with the assessment element, what we're trying to accomplish is to gather information about the developmental and content areas that we need to focus on with the child. We also want to know an important part of gathering assessment information is knowing what the child's interests and preferences are. A basic fact of human development is that in order for someone to learn something, they have to be motivated to learn. That's a basic principle of all learning. You all would not be adding your 4th degree or, to becoming a TVI unless there's some interest in that. Maybe somebody promised you an astronomical salary. Maybe it's in the district that you've always wanted to live in, but there's some reason that you found your way here to this class tonight. And the same is so true for our children. We need to know what works for them. What interests do they have? We have a new little boy at our center who is deafblind, and that little boy likes things that are shiny. He likes things that twirl and whirl. He likes things, and so to motivate him, to get him to communicate, to get him to engage, I need to know those things about him. And also, we need to know what families' resources, priorities, and concerns are. The law is very clear that families should have a voice in the development of the plan. And so it's incumbent upon us to figure out a way to make sure, as teachers, to make sure that that voice is present. So in Reach for the Stars, the way that any person-centered planning process is made up, there are 4 maps. And maps are simply visual representations of different aspects of a child's life. And so in Reach for the Stars, there are 4 maps that we do that are part of the assessment process. Gifts and contributions, all about me, what works and doesn't work, and images for the future. I'm going to describe each of these maps, and I'm also, for a couple of them, I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about a child that you work with, a student that you work with, and how you might complete that map for that child. And then I'm going to give you an example of a map of a child that we recently did Reach for the Stars with. So the first, okay, I guess that's all in there twice. The first map I want to talk about is called My Gifts and Contributions. Within the Reach for the Stars manual, there are what we call guiding questions to help you think about how to get the conversation started with the family. And so if I were to globally describe gift and contributions, to me, it's a word picture of who this person's son or daughter is. I'm trying to give the family the opportunity to talk about what is special about their child, what their talents are, what their personality is, how they impact their life, how they impact the lives of others, um, what they've learned from their child, how the world is a better place. Because here's the truth, folks. These families, by the time, even if you're working with 3-year-olds, by the time you start working with them, most of these families have spent time with medical specialists, including neurologists, ophthalmologists, pediatricians, developmental pediatricians. They've had people do evaluations of their children. And in all of those processes, I can almost guarantee you that the emphasis has been on what is wrong with that child. So what we are doing in starting the Reach for the Stars process here is opening up and helping families think differently, supporting them, allowing them. I had a parent say that to me one time. Thank you for allowing me to say something positive about my child. This was a parent of an 18-month-old baby. Now, many of you all are probably parents, and I can guarantee you that all of you all had positive things to say about your 18-month-old baby, yet this mom had not been afforded that gift. Let that sit for just a second. Hadn't been afforded that gift. And so with Reach for the Stars, we're starting that process and allowing them to do that. So this is Kinsey. This is a little girl whose family has allowed us to share her maps. Her parents had come for the last 2 years to a Deafblind Project sponsored workshop that we do with families every summer. It's the highlight of my year. We bring these families in, we sit with them, and we do their maps with them, and we help prepare them for the upcoming school year. And this is Kinsey. And Kinsey has a vision loss. She has hearing impairments. This is how they describe her. She's independent, funny, emotional, temperamental. She likes music, baseball, small groups. She likes routine. She likes to have her limits challenged. Wow. I'd like to work with a child who has challenging limits. She has, let's see, she has taught them patience. She's taught her parents patience. She likes laughing, she likes hugs and kisses, and she's very caring. So this is, this little girl who at this point was transitioning into preschool. I really can't emphasize with you all enough the impact that doing something like this will have on a family. but I'm going to highlight it with a story. You know, after this many years, you have lots of stories, but this was truly one of the most impactful. Can I ask you all to turn your cameras on? It's just not fun to look at blank space. So if you all would turn your cameras on, I'd appreciate it. I had the opportunity in July of last year to go to Argentina, where they are really starting their early intervention system from scratch. And interestingly, a bunch of my audience and many of my were physicians, which I absolutely loved. I loved having physicians there because they're dedicated. And in fact, one of the physicians that I work with has taken Reach for the Stars, translated it into Spanish, and he's now using it in his practice when his kids come in for their wear visits, which is just fabulous. But while I was there, in this audience, on one Saturday, we had a group of parents there and they asked me to speak about Reach for the Stars. And so I had the opportunity. All right, Macy, you're going to have to turn off because you're making me dizzy, honey. I'm sorry. I said it was okay to turn on, but then that kind of makes me dizzy. Sorry about that. Um, and so in this audience, there were about 300 or 400 families in this audience, and I didn't have long, but I talked to them about gifts and contributions. And I asked the families if they would please take a minute, get out a scrap piece of paper, and write down the gifts and contributions of their sons or daughters. And then in this huge hall, we were actually in a ballet theater. I asked if some of the families would really like to share with me what they had to say. And a couple of people did. And oftentimes, when families do this, it's very emotional because, as I said, they literally have been, their whole lives have been focused on all of the negatives of these kids for so long, especially if the kids are older, that it's really emotional for them to rethink this. In the process of this, an older gentleman, a man older than me, stood up and he said, I have something to say. And he stood up and he said, This is my 30-year-old son who has autism. And he said, I want to stand here today and to apologize to him because I have always focused on all of his negatives and have never focused on what is positive about this wonderful young man. It kills me still to this day. And so that's tragedy, you all. We can't let that happen to our families. We've got to provide them with opportunities for sharing. The other thing that I want to point out to you, when I look at this gifts and contributions map of my little friend Kenzie here, one of the things I notice as a teacher that's going to be working with her is not only am I getting this really quirky, interesting little girl, but I also find out she's going to respond best if she's got a consistent routine. She likes to be challenged. I know that if I want to motivate her, I can give her music or I can talk about baseball. The best way for her to learn is probably going to be in small groups. So, again, this is not just about fluff and making families feel better. This is about gathering invaluable assessment information that is going to help me when I am teaching this child. So, what I want you all to do for just a few minutes is exactly that. Take out a piece of blank paper, write gifts and contributions on there, and think about a child you're working with. Maybe think about the toughest child that you know. And I want you to write down, I want you to list that individual's gifts and contributions. And I will put back up, in case you get stuck, I'll put back up the guiding questions so that you will, to help you, in thinking about what to write.
Can I see the questions again real fast?
Dr. Grisham, we can't hear you.
I'd like one or two of you all to share your gifts and contributions map with us.
I can share one of mine of what I was thinking about. Um, for my student, I said that she is funny, she's kind, she loves music, she loves ghost hunters, and she tells you how it is. And I think, did I say she loves cats? Um, yeah, that was just a couple of things that I wrote down and was thinking about when I was thinking of my student.
Good, great. Someone else?
I wrote down blunt, dry, and resilient.
Mm, those are great characteristics.
I have loves anything with music and movement, responds positively to personal touch or attention, like high fives and hugs. I have a little tiny, almost always calm and cooperative. Um, he enjoys working in small groups for socialization. And from this child, I have learned that there are limitless possibilities.
Great.
I wrote strong, loving, loves to do things for himself. He likes letters, numbers, bluey, and if he trusts you, he will lay his head on you.
Yeah, I love that. It's great.
This is Tekla. I'd like to talk about my little guy I work with. He's when he enters a room, the whole room lights up because his smile is so embracing. He gets his needs met though with all non-traditional signs, but his intention is so great that everyone always knows what he wants.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yep.
I wrote down, I have a friend and she is funny. She gives the best hugs. She's assertive and she loves everything Moana and Snoop Dogg's affirmations.
Snoop Dogg.
Mhm.
I love that song, the affirmation song.
Katie is reminding everybody to, oh gosh, my whole computer thing just fell. Oh, goodness. Katie's reminding us to please identify ourselves. Sorry, part of my desk just fell apart in my lap. So it didn't feel good. All right.
Sorry, Katie. It's Tracy.
Yeah, sorry, Katie. This is Lainey. I was the last one to speak. Sorry about that.
Okay, so this is Jennifer back again. So, does anybody have any reflections about what it was like to do something like that?
I This is Tracy. I might just be weird. I've just always gone with listing all the positives first about a child before we talk about anything else. So that felt really natural.
Great. That's wonderful. This is Jennifer. Okay. All right. So we're going to go on now and we're going to talk about the second map. And this map is, now everything is, are we on the second screen again?
We're on map 1, my gifts and
Okay. All
contributions.
right, good.
Yep.
Okay. You all are going to have to excuse me because I lost my mouse. I lost everything that was on there. So,
If you want me to pull up your presentation and you tell me what you want me to do, I can do that as well, Dr. Grisham.
okay.
If
Yeah, it's, ugh. That is so weird. I mean, I literally, the whole thing just fell down on me. Okay.
But what a beautiful picture.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
Tracy. Sorry, Katie.
Thanks.
This is
Yeah,
Emily Johnson, but one of Misty's good attributes is that she loves to help.
I know she does. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Misty, if you'll pull it up, I think you're going to have to because everything is off now.
Okay, doke. You all
It's
see it?
Tracy. Map two is actually after map 3 in this, so it's on page 18. Just to help you get there. Or 19. I think I deleted one because it was a duplicate.
Okay.
Yep, we've done that one.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're going to
Here we go. Yeah, we can do this one. This is fine. Okay.
Would you like
So,
to, this one, map 3?
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. So yeah, this is really actually the one that we usually do second now. And this is what's called the what works and doesn't work map. And so the what works and doesn't work map is not simply that we are saying what they like and they don't like. But it's bigger than that in that we're trying to get a sense for what are the best ways to interact with this child? What are the things that really motivate this child? What are the things that are really problematic to do with this child? You know, somebody said a minute ago something to the effect of that if the child trusts you that they lay your head on there. Well, what causes that trust? You know, what do you do to help that child trust you? What works? Is it because you use touch cues in a certain way? Is it because you're consistent with the child? Is it because you know, you listen to them and you respect their communication style? What are the things? Those are the things that work for that child. So when we're thinking about this, we ask ourselves questions about, you know, what's going to calm or please the child? You know, what are the things does the child enjoy doing that they cannot get enough of? You know, what do you do to get the child's attention? What are the things that really get the child's attention? And then alternatively, what are the things that really upset the child? What are the things that make the child really mad or that scare the child or that distract the child or frighten the child? You know, I used to say there was a little girl that I did this one time with, and the mom said that she just can't stand the physical and the occupational therapist. And so we talked a little bit about what was it about physical and occupational therapy that might be really difficult for this child, that wasn't working for them. And we explored topics like maybe that the therapist, did things to her without letting her know that something was going to happen. Or maybe they came in and to do therapy with her at a time of day when she was really engaged in another activity that she really liked. Or her mother decided that it was because she did it was very difficult for her, and so it didn't feel great to have physical therapy, and so she didn't like it for that reason. So you want to explore with families and try to figure out what is the best way for me to interact with this child. So if we go next to the next slide there, we'll see an example with our friend Kinsey. And her parents said that what works for her is explaining things and giving her choices. We talked about the music again. We talked about Spider-Man and Puppy Dog Pals, which is some kind of a toy. She liked animal pictures. It worked with her to make sure that we had eye contact with her when we told her to do something. And we talked about, using books with her, using stickers for reward and music and pictures for reward. And what doesn't work for her is telling her what to do. So this was a little girl that, if there was something she didn't really like to do, then she, as lots of 4-year-olds are, she wouldn't do it. If she's involved in something, interrupting her task, that also, if she was very, very engaged in an activity and you interrupted her, she was going to get mad. She was going to be upset. Losing her stuff, moving stuff around. Again, this was a childhood vision loss. And so moving things in her environment was very, very unsettling for her. She didn't like eating meat. She didn't like sharing, nor do most 4-year-olds. And she didn't like fire. And I can't remember what the story was behind that. So if you'll take that down for just a second, Misty, I want to know from you all, if you had that information about her, how could you incorporate some of that information from her what works and what doesn't work map in order to be able to serve her?
This is Tracy. The first one that hits me is that first one, telling her it doesn't work, telling her what to do. So definitely, she's a child. You want to give the like two choices. Would you prefer to do this or this? And sometimes it can just be, do you want to do this first or this first? Like
That's
we do
right.
have to do them both.
That's right. Somebody else.
This is Brandy. It also gives you ideas as to what types of things may be good to use for positive reinforcement. Like when you are working with her, like you got ideas there, you don't have to go looking for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else?
This is Macy speaking. I would definitely say keeping a firm routine with her and
Yeah.
even using like kind of like the object schedules that we created. I have a teacher right now that's using it in her F&D classroom with one of my students, but he is non-speaking and she has like a Velcro strip on her refrigerator and has the actual objects of things that he would use to communicate with. Like he wants a drink, so they have his sippy cup Velcro to the fridge. And like he loves to flip through books and look through the pictures. So like they have a book on there and all of those things, like he'll pull those off and take those to the teacher and let her know that that's what he wants. So I think definitely having a set routine and also staying organized with her and having everything in the same spot.
I just love this conversation because it highlights exactly the point that I'm trying to make. I mean, that if, this is information that came from her parents, all right? This was not this wasn't a specialist that did this. This was from her parents. And on that short little page, that you all came up with all of these wonderful ideas about how you could support her, how you could develop interventions for her, how you could motivate her, what kind of reinforcement you could give, how you could organize the environment, all of that stuff from that one map. And so, even that this is not going to be in an evaluation that a psychologist is going to do at school. This is going to be information that you're going to have to gather from the family, and hopefully bring that into the meeting when you're discussing and you're writing goals for the child. All right, Misty, let's look at I just looked at the time and we're getting along here. So let's look at another map again. I'll go through these last two a little bit more quickly. The next one is images for the future. And at its heart, person-centered planning is really about thinking about what the future should look like, or what the family, or as students get older, we want to ask the students themselves what they want their future to look like. And John O'Brien, who was one of the people that actually started the notion of person-centered planning, I heard him speak many, many years ago, and I never will forget that he said that when we think about a quality of life, it falls kind of into different categories. It falls in the category of who you spend your time with. It falls in the category of where you spend the time and then how you spend your time. And if you think about getting to know anybody, a new friend, a classmate, a new teacher at your school, you have conversations about, well, where did you go to school? Do you have any children? Where do you like to go? How do you like to spend your time? What do you like to do the best? And so we're offering families, or if you're working again with older students, the opportunity to think about, what do you want that future to look like? And when we say to families, when we're doing this with them, the future can be next month, the future can be next school year, the future can be what you want your child to do as an adult. My career has been focused on working with young children, and I have been shocked over time at the number of families who say, I know what I want my child's future to look like. I want them to grow up. I want them to get married. I want them to be able to have a job. I want them to be around family. I want them to live on their own. One father said to me one time, he had a little girl with Down syndrome, and he said, you know what? Michelle is really, really bossy. She likes to be outside and she likes to dig in the dirt. And so we're going to buy some land and we're going to build a greenhouse for her. And we're going to let her be the boss of people. And she can just dig in the dirt all day and plant flowers. I'm like, this is so beautiful. You know, he was basing his vision for what he wanted for his child, based on her characteristics and who she was and what she liked to do. And so that's what the Images for the Future is about. So if we look on the next slide at what Kenzie's parents said, they had these hopes and dreams that, for her in school, they wanted her to have friends. They wanted her to be around her family, but they wanted her to, develop friendships with her classmates. They thought about her, where to spend time, and it was not just, it wasn't just at what was going to happen at school, but also how she would do out in the community. Her father really, really liked that baseball. So he talked about taking her to sporting events, her going to the swimming pool. And then what would she spend her time doing? And again, some of the activities and some of the skills were things that she would do at school, but then there are also things that she would do out in the community. So this is the Images for the Future. The final map that's part of the assessment part of Reach for the Stars, oh goodness, that's completely sideways, is called All About Me. Hopefully the next one is not. Let's look. Oh, goodness gracious, sakes alive. Go to her map and let's see what happens.
I was going to say, this is Tracy. Mindy, you can just flip those. I flipped all mine.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. We'll just start here. Just go to her map. Yeah. So with the All About Me map, what we're trying to do at this point is give families voice about what it is that they would like to see their son or daughter learn while they're at school. The IEP, the law says the family should have a voice in the IEP. And that can be just signing papers, or we can actually talk with families about what they would like to see their goals. And in Reach for the Stars, the way that we do that is we get them talking about what are the areas of the child's development or the content areas that they really, really want to focus on. In the left-hand column, then, we talk about what their child is currently doing in that particular area. So this is Kinsey with her dad, and her family said that they wanted to work on her fine motor skills. And so they said that right now what she could do is that she could draw shapes. But in the future, they wanted her to be able to use a writing utensil correctly. And they wanted her to eventually, and that's how I'm really having trouble seeing that, but I think they want her to eventually be able to write and to eventually be able to, can we zoom that out a little bit? Um, and for her to be able to write her name and to be able to write letters and shapes and other things. In communication, they said that currently what she does is that she expresses her wants and needs a lot of times through screaming. And they want her to be able to communicate through words and through ASL or verbally or through pictures. And they talked about how we're going to have to collaborate with others to do that. With self-help, they talked about her potty training, and that's what she's working on right now. And in the future, they want her to be able to, let them know when she has to go to the potty. They want her to be able to build her skills for being able to dress and undress herself and be more independent in that manner. So that gives us some very clear ideas about the types of skills that the family wants her to work on. And so, I've heard people say for decades, families are so unrealistic. They think their children can do things that they'll never be able to do and blah, blah, blah. If you have that attitude about the families, I beg of you, don't do Reach for the Stars. Because at its core, Reach for the Stars is asking and allowing families to have that voice. And what I have found is, I have found that more often than not, that what the families think and what the families want and what the team wants, that they are much more, uh, they correlate more than you would ever think that they do. And so I just, ask you to think about that. And this is, again, there are many different ways you can gather information from families about what skills they want to work on the IEP, but Reach for the Stars is one way that you can do that. And so once we've done that, if you want to go, Misty, to the next slide, then we can take our information from Reach for the Stars, go on to the next slide then. And the next one, and we can identify what it is that we want to teach the child. What are the priorities? So we ask the families and Reach for the Stars, what are the skills that you think your child needs the most amount of support with? What are the skills that you want us to focus on right now? Our children who have multiple disabilities have many, many, many needs. And what we're trying to do with this part of the process is to help families articulate what is it that they think is most important for their child to learn right now. And so we go through this process, this tiered process of asking them, what do you think your child's going to learn just because they're around other kids? What are the things that you think that the child needs if we just provide them with a little bit of extra support? And what are the things that I think the child needs to learn right now that they're going to need the most support to learn? Unsurprisingly, for our kids with multiple disabilities, that oftentimes falls into the categories of social communication and social emotional skills with those children. So let's go on to the next.
It's Tracy. I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. The skills I want and need to learn, is this specifically for like MAP 4?
Yes, this is after you have done map 4. This would be like map 5. And so if Misty will go to the next map, this is what it looks like in the book. And so this is saying, what are the skills that I'm going to learn from other children? What are the skills that I can learn with a little bit of extra support? And then what are the skills that I need lots of support on that I need to work on right now? And those become our priority skills. Those are the skills that we hope find their way into the IEP. Did that help, Tracy? All right, so let's look at Kelsey's map then. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go to yeah. So this then is another map. So we found when we did that prioritization with them that the one of the skills that they said that they wanted the child to learn their daughter to learn the most was to express her wants and needs by expanding her sentences. She was using two-word sentences and they wanted her to speak in longer sentences. And so the map that you see here is what we call my education plan. And my education plan, Misty, would you scroll back up one slide, please? My education map, which is also in Reach for the Stars, what we do is that we list the skill that we want to teach the child in the top there. Okay? So express wants and needs is it. We then have a discussion about where and when we're going to teach that skill. So what are the activities and when are we going to do this? Then we talk about the adaptations and instructional strategies that we need to use in order to teach that skill. And then we talk about the people that need to support the child to learn to teach that skill. And so if we go now and look at Kenzie's map, what we found is that we talked about where she could learn this. So she's going to be working on her expressive communication in the preschool classroom, during classroom routines, at daycare, and also at home. Some of the adaptations that we came up with, the strategies that we came up with were open-ended questions instead of using yes, no, modeling how to share, how to state the sentence, and using visuals to provide choices. Also, getting her to point to pairing words and sentences with choices, and also making sure that she gets extra practice. And then in the last column, you see the team that's going to help her work on this. The SLP, the OT, the teachers, the daycare providers, and also her parents and siblings. So from that, then, I want to show you how this maps onto the IEP. So if you go to the next map, you see the overlap there. So from the My Education map, we can help develop our goals and objectives. We can inform the specially designed instruction, and we can identify who is going to be part of the related services. So remember that statement that I made at the very beginning when I said that we want to balance the dreams with positive and possible goals. And so what I've tried to show you is how we've taken the information that we've gotten from her family and we've used that information to develop her IEP. And so if we don't have time to go through all of it tonight, but I've shown you in there on the subsequent slides how you can actually take that map information and write it into an IEP goal. So, so that is, kind of an overview. That's what all of this is here. You can go on through that. And then if you could go to the part where we talk a little bit, I just want to say this. I'm not going to talk about the research, but let me just say what we've been doing for the last couple of years is that, is that we've been trying to collect some data on whether or not doing Reach for the Stars with families actually makes a difference. And so in there, you've got some of our preliminary data. And I've known for a long time that doing Reach for the Stars, I've known in my heart for a long time that Reach for the Stars helped empower families, that it gave families a voice. But now I actually have some data to prove it. We have families come in, like I said, twice a year. And those every year, and those families are there for 2 days, and we go through the whole Reach for the Stars process with them. I do a pre-test measure with them and a post-test measure with them. And in those 2 days, we have statistically significant differences in their feelings of empowerment. And that to me is powerful, powerful. you know, that just doing this process reshapes their thinking about their children so that they feel better prepared to be able to support their sons and daughters. And that's the reason why almost 30 years ago I started this process in the first place, was to give families that voice so that they did feel empowered. If you can go to the last slide for me, very end. I prepared too much, Misty. I'm sorry. Oh, it's the one before that, I think. Yep. So this is, I always end with some kind of quote. And this was from Vincent van Gogh of all people. For my part, I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream. And so I hope that Reach for the Stars helps you all dream a little bit about what you can do for the students, the children that you work with. And so that's all.
That was
Any
awesome.
questions?
Dr. Grissom, this is Dr. T. I just know that what you have done in the last 30 years has continued to impact so many families. But more than just families, I want you to know that teachers and prospective teachers, you have made such a difference in their lives and how we approach children. And hurrah, thank you for all you have shared and done. I know you have talked about retirement, but don't let go yet.
Thank you for those nice words. That's very kind of you.
I had asked earlier, and Misty said you would provide it at the end,
Yeah.
how we can request Reach for the Stars.
Yeah. So I said,
It's
I mentioned that we have this ongoing research project. And so, Misty, I'm going to kind of put this off on you if you don't mind, because you're right down the hallway from Sarah Hawkins Lear, and Sarah has access to all of those Reach for the Stars books. And so if you're willing to, do this with a family, complete a couple of surveys for us, then we'll give you a Reach for the Stars. And so maybe Misty, if you could collect names of people that might be interested in that. And I'm happy to work with you and Sarah to make that happen. But the materials are actually located in the building where you are. So
Yeah. So who would put your name in the, okay, Tracy, Brandy, Lainey, Chris, Emily Johnson, Emily Bishop, Audrey. Okay.
And what I'll do,
Olivia.
Olivia's
Sorry.
been sitting there with her hand up the whole time. Sorry.
Thanks, Olivia. Sorry. Okay, I'm sending myself an email reminder.
Okay.
And Macy. Okay. And Alyssa. Okay.
This is Jennifer again. And so Misty, what I will do is that I'll alert Sarah that you're going to be reaching out to her, and we'll figure out a way to get this to do, because I would love for you all to try it out and see. There are some classes that we teach that we require it, but there are no classes in the TVI program where you all are required to do it. So if you make that commitment, then we'll make sure that you get the material.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure being with you all and listening and hearing your stories and talking to you. And I certainly wish you all the very best of luck. And I won't be gone very far. So if you have questions, then let me know. And think about the climb training. Maybe Misty, you can,
I
share.
shared the link. Unfortunately, we have in-person class that week.
Oh, no.
But they can definitely send families and other providers and teachers to that training.
Yeah.
And then you all can do it next year.
Yeah.
Because they do it every year usually, right?
Yes, we do. All right. We'll see you all later. Thank you so much for having
Thank you so much for doing this.
my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grisham.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few things I'm going to talk about, and then we'll
Wait,
get off.
it's Tracy. I have to say, class and a gift. Okay, go on.
Yes, Dr. Grisham is great. So let's talk tonight. We're supposed to talk about transition, and Reach for the Stars is a program for transition. How can you all utilize this program with your students for transition?
I wish we'd had this class a week ago because I just had a transition meeting Monday, a couple weeks ago. I wish we'd had it.
You
So,
could use this to talk about their, this is Emily Johnson. You can use this to talk about their future goals.
Yeah. This is Olivia, and I have kind of always lived in the elementary world, where it's not mandated, but I think Reach for the Stars gets everyone thinking that way. Whether, and like Dr. Grisham said, it doesn't necessarily have to be what do we see for them in the future 20 years from now. It can be short term, but it just kind of always has that like that in mind, because I know for a lot of my students is a lot of my parents, they do not want to think about it. And when we start to get closer to middle school, it's just all fear, and not a lot of proactive conversations or anything.
Right. This is Misty. Yes,
I'm
Dr.
sorry.
T.
I was going to say that I used it with last semester. We did the assessment type intervention program. I'm not sure which category it fits in because it fits in all, providing services and assessment. So I used it with my boy who was trying to get into an adult daycare for special needs. And what was really cool about it is that this was futuristic for him, but it was also very immediate. And the answers to these questions were germane to him being successful in his next setting.
Yes.
and this is Tracy again. I mean, what a great way to help when you're transitioning from elementary to middle to share that information with the teachers that are going to take our children. And I did word it that way on purpose.
This Laney, Tracy, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, how awesome would it be to have all that information? Like, here you go. When you get a child.
Yeah. This is Misty. So, what I really like, so I did this, we had to do this in part of the deafblind certificate program is we had to complete the maps on a family. And I asked on map 2, it says images for my future. Who will I spend my time with? Where will I spend my time? And what will I spend my time doing? Those questions are not questions we typically ask. Usually we're like, oh, what are your plans for the future for our kids? Like, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, maybe they'll be a greeter at Walmart. Like, I hear that, like, okay, well, it rephrases that frame of mind to think, okay, who are they going to spend their time with? Where will I spend my time? So thinking about some of these things a little more specifically, it really lets the family kind of think about it in a different kind of way. And some of these questions they've never really thought about until now. And these are real questions they've got to ask and got to know. Anybody else? Reach for the Stars. It really is good. It has lots of options. It does help with some IEP goal making. But it can also, like if you're doing an assessment on a student, it's a great parent student interview information too. You get all that great information from it. So use this as part of your transition tools, put it in your toolbox.
Sorry, it's Tracy. Will your husband be, in Northern Kentucky anytime soon? Because I know he delivers things for you. And I do
no
have a
longer delivers.
transition. What?
He works at
He
UK
won't come
now.
this far. But I do have a transition meeting coming up for a preschooler going to kindergarten, and I'm thinking, wow, I know this mom and I know she would give me some good information to share. I mean, I guess I could go from the slides and get with her and ask her to
I
provide some of that.
uploaded the PDFs of the 5 maps.
I have, you mean
And I
from
shared them
her
with you all
presentation
last.
she was doing?
I also shared them with you all last semester in intro, but I did it like a 5-minute spill on Reach for the Stars, so I knew I was going to ask her to. So you all probably had like heard it once before, and now you're like, oh, here's more information
You're
about it.
talking about the PDF of what she presented tonight, right?
I also uploaded
Is
the
there
5
something else?
maps. Yeah.
Okay,
Hit
then I'll go
F5
back
on
and
that.
okay. Thank you. I'm looking. My
Unless I
computer's.
didn't hit save.
Well, we'll tell you in a minute.
This is Brandy. I had to refresh the page, but they're there. All the
Okay, good.
the maps are there.
Yep.
But
They
they're
are.
not
My
in
computer
the
was just
accessible format that I would prefer them to be in, so I will fix that after class. But they are in PDF form. Okay. Yep.
Thank you very
You're
much
welcome.
once again.
So there are a couple of things I want to talk to you all about too before we get off. I'm going to stop recording because these are not things that need to. These are like question, just sort of some things that we should talk about because class is ending soon. Then we have 2 assignments that are coming up that are due. We have our CVI kit and we have the resource file. So if you all are in methods class right now and this class, you all have to do a resource file for both, but it can be the same resource file. Okay? So just submit it for both classes. Now, for those of you who have never done a resource file, I would be happy to stay on and walk you through how to do it or meet another time and do it. I know some of you all already have submitted it and I have graded those. So if you've already got a grade for it, you're good. So our next class, because we have spring break coming up the next 2 weeks, you all have an asynchronous learning activity to watch Out of My Mind. I have created a module for it and there is a discussion for it. So you're going to watch the movie. If you don't have Disney Plus, there is a link off of the UK Swank where they have purchased the rights for it for you all to watch it. And you all will watch it and respond to the discussion board before April the 11th. So if your spring break is next week, do it the next week. Or if your spring break is the second week, do it this week. So it just needs to be done by April the 11th. Okay? Do y'all have any questions about the asynchronous learning activity?
No, but I do have a question on the resource file. It's Tracy. We are supposed to add that to what we started last time, correct?
Yes, you're just
Okay.
continuing on the resources from last time.
And how many resources are we supposed to have this time?
50.
Okay, because it was 50 points, but I couldn't see where it said how many, so I figured it was 50. So I could probably go ahead and, okay, thanks. Oh, can I also ask a question about the CVI kit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you say for the presentation, so are we presenting these in person?
Yes.
Okay, do we have to physically have all of the items? Like if we're using something with a student.
No, you just have to present your presentation.
So just our presentation. Okay, that's what I was concerned about. I thought I don't want to take things away from. Okay, I'll just have pictures of it.
Cool. This is Olivia. So this might for the resource file, do we have to go through and say like this is new, or is it more just like now there's 100
So you're
things?
going to create like how you did your name with the class, and you're going to list how many you did. You're going
Okay.
to start a new slide down below, same presentation, new class. This is how many you've done.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
And
So
then
like
turn it in.
my like one of my folders was literacy, and so obviously there are some things from last semester, but there's a whole bunch more from this semester. So I can just be like, okay, now literacy looks like
Screenshot
this.
it, yep, and stick it in there and say you've added this many more to it. Yep.
Great, thank you.
It's Tracy. Now that she said that, so when I started saving resources this time, I have a new tab that says spring 2025.
And you
And
can
then
use
I
that way
have
too.
all the
Yep.
things. Okay, just Olivia made me go.
Yep. As long as you don't just put links in there, you're good.
So follow-up question. Oops.
Yep, go for it.
Wait,
This is
explain
Melissa.
that.
So
Sorry.
well, I was just wondering because like I have just like a whole running tabs of different bookmarks with folders, and I've been like adding to the ones. So I guess it's kind of like Olivia. Um, can I just like take like how I did last time of screenshotting like each what's in each folder, even though it is like repeats
Yep.
from last semester? Okay, because
Yeah.
I was like, that'd be kind of a lot to go back and like figure out which ones I did last time and which ones, because I just want to keep adding it to those folders.
Yes, but you need
Does
to
that make
tell us
sense?
how many of each one are new. So,
Okay, I can, okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
yes. And
Okay,
yeah,
so just say like these are, or just say like 10 new ones in this folder or whatever.
this is also an assignment for Dr. Lannon. So I would definitely clear this with Dr. Lannon because her expectations may be different than mine.
Okay.
Okay. She's been doing this a lot longer. If it was up
So
to me,
I
you all
wonder
wouldn't have
if
to do the
next
resource files.
time we should just do like what Tracy did of like the next semester make its own thing. So it's not just adding. But I thought the whole purpose of the resource file was like to gather all the resources under certain things. So I don't want them to all be different terms, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I see
see,
both sides of it.
when I'm finished, I will lump them all together. But for ease of this, genius. I mean, is that
yeah.
what you called me? Is that what you said? Did you call me a genius? I'm pretty sure you did. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Okay. Y'all good on the discussion? You're good on the resource file, good on the CVI kit, good on the discussion board. Those are your last three like assignments besides the final. And the final are two questions that I have
We have a
scenarios.
final?
Yes. So the final is just two scenarios that you all respond from content that you learned in this class. And we will practice that together. Okay. So you all will not be surprised and you'll have wonderful ideas for when you actually do it for the final, okay? Okay. We met today as faculty and we talked about next semester, next year. So summer's already decided the dates, but we were looking at dates for fall. And so we're gonna see if you all have any issues, like maybe someone's getting married or something. I don't know. There's always someone that gets married in class. So the dates we're looking at, does anyone have any conflicts between September 13th or September 27th? Do either of those dates? So it's only going to be one of those, but
This is Brandy. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's Tracy. Can you repeat the dates? I was pulling up my calendar.
September 13th or September 27th.
Thanks. Let me look.
Randy?
Okay, so I mean, like, if just giving you a preference because of like often a trip that takes place the first or second week of September to family, I definitely would prefer the 27th, but I mean, if it didn't work, it didn't work, but that would be my preference.
Yeah. Okay, so Brandy, September 27th is the preference. Everybody else good? So you will have 2 in-person weekends that semester, but this first one is the one that we had some flexibility on dates. So whichever one you all didn't choose, the O&Ms were getting the other. So you got first dibs.
It's
Unless
Tracy.
there's like someone getting married in the O&Ms. That's
So you
always
said 9, so it'll be the 27th and 28th. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It
That
might be that
weekend?
Friday. Yeah, it will be the weekend of that weekend. Yeah.
See, this
The
is
weekend
Lady.
of that weekend?
Sorry.
Lainey?
Is it in Louisville or Lexington? Do you guys know?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know. So the second weekend will be the weekend we talked about doing it after Kentucky. So Kentucky is the 23rd of October. So then that weekend after, so that's a Thursday, then it would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that will be your anatomy weekend. So the first weekend we'll do, we haven't really 100% decided, but we're fairly certain that will be dissection weekend, we like to do it in October because for a couple of reasons, but one main reason is because we like to get all the eyeball goodies at like Target, and Halloween tends to be, I have lots of eyeball stuff behind me it always comes from Halloween. I even have like a little eyeball decoration on my desk, the little jumping eyeball. And Halloween is the best time to get your eyeball decoration. So,
Okay, what happens if you're signed up to be somewhere the other weekend that's not flexible?
That will need to be you'll need to speak with Dr. Lee, okay?
Okie dokie.
I'm sorry. Are you getting married?
A marathon.
Oh.
This is Katie. Misty, are you teaching anatomy in the fall?
We decided that today I will be teaching anatomy and Dr. Lee will be teaching, well, me and Dr. Lee both will sort of be tag teaming assessment, but she'll mostly be doing assessment. Sort of like
sorry, go ahead.
We sort of like all help.
It just sounds like we're going to be taking assessment, anatomy, and Braille on top of our practicums in the fall.
Not Braille.
Braille 2.
Braille 2 comes in spring of 2026 during student teaching.
During what? Say it again.
You will have Braille 2 during spring 2026 while you're also doing student teaching.
That sounds like fun. And so I was wondering for our resource guide, my understanding is it's just like a list of resources that we have been given over the last semester and bookmarked. So when we submit it would you like it to be like a document or like a folder of different folders of links, but just the website links and the names of the resources? Or do you want more information than that?
So Katie, what we do is you will bookmark all of your stuff and then you screenshot your bookmarks and then you tell me how many in each of the categories in a PowerPoint or a Google slide.
I see.
Okay.
Thanks.
This is Tracy. You said you didn't know the location for September. Do we know the location for October?
We usually do October at UK, but we don't know because we don't know for sure because of Keeneland being in October. We always try to take that into consideration. And so we don't 100% know the location, but those are the dates we talked about. Okay.
TBD will go in my location again on this calendar. Thanks.
Sorry, but I'm trying to look like we're so far in advance, like 7 months.
Do you know if
No, I wasn't. I
registration?
wasn't complaining. I thank you so much for giving us the information, but I'm just saying, okay, then I fill it this way. But thank you for giving us such a good heads up. That helps me so much. You can see I'm already adding it. It's how my brain works.
Katie?
Do you know if we, sorry, I was wondering, do you know if summer semester registration is open yet?
I do not know that.
March 31st.
Okay, thank you.
That was Tracy. Sorry, March 31st.
I did not receive an email from during fall semester to register for spring courses until like the very end of the semester. So I'm like, I'd rather know soon so that I can prepare to register than like at the end of April and be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get that now, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. Okay, so 2 more things before we get off here. One, because Brandy had such a phenomenal presentation and worked so hard on her stuff, and she was like one of the last 2 people that got to present. She's going to present her stuff for us. She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to, but I would love for her to.
I don't care to. But I'm gonna step away for a second because I have to go get all this stuff real quick. Okay.
Okay. And
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
And then while she's stepping away, I just want to remind you all how important it is for you all to take course evaluations when they pop up. I'm sure Dr. Lannon has told you all this, but it is very important feedback for us. It's looked at by us very meticulously. We take all of your suggestions and all of your comments very seriously. And so if you don't mind, and what we will do when the course evaluations open up, just like I did last time, the class April 24th, we will do a review that day, and after the review, that will be the last of it. Okay? So the only part of, and it won't be mandatory either. Like you all just show up to class if you want to review, and if you don't want to review, it'll be, but if everyone, that's if everyone is does their evaluation. Okay. It'll be a non-mandatory class. But speaking of mandatory class, go back and talk about the discussion board. So the discussion board is mandatory for you all to complete. It is not graded, but it is for your class that you're missing. So we show that you all have done your class. Okay. Everybody's shaking. Okay. Okay.
And everybody get the evaluation done. Sorry,
And get
just
the
thought I'd throw that in.
evaluation done. We will
And
still
I'm going to step away
review.
yes, I'm going to step away for just a moment too. So tell her she's not allowed to start.
Okay.
It's all about me.
Misty,
Yeah, Katie.
I wonder about as we were going through the presentation today, I was having a little bit of a hard time following the slides in the PDF because there were so many pictures with no
Yeah.
alt text.
Yeah, she sent it to me with a PDF. I'm very disappointed in the amount of accessibility it was. And I couldn't go in and add alt text because it was a PDF. I'm going to work on this stuff after class. Okay, Katie?
That
And the
sounds good.
maps,
Thanks.
the maps I've attached for you are not accessible either. I will make them accessible. I promise. Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay, I'm ready whenever. Maybe better with the light off. I don't know. Turn the light back on, please. Maybe if I blur the background. How do I do that?
Go to video settings and then blur my background.
Thank
Just
you.
like hit the arrow by the video.
Yeah. Let's see if that makes it. I don't think that didn't make any difference. Okay, hang on. Let me see if there's a better spot in the house somewhere. Okay, I'm ready whenever you want me to start.
You are good to start. We're excited.
Okay. All right, so the book I chose, and you very well may remember, but I chose a book called Sugar Snow. I'm gonna have to unblur that because you can't see anything. Okay, so the book was Sugar Snow, and it is part of the Little House on the Prairie, but it's the picture book series, so it's called My First Little House Books. But they follow along with things that happen in the Little House on the Prairie books. So to make my book more adaptive, I added these clips on the pages, like to use kind of like as page bumpers or fluffers. As you go through the book, Laura, this doll, it's not used very much throughout the rest of the book, but any stories about this doll is often associated with Laura. So I put some hair on it, and I did use red hair. And there's Braille. The words that are brailled are words that either went along with the questions that I asked or like went along with my objects that I used. The house, I put cotton on the house. I know that doesn't feel like snow, but at least they could feel something different on top of the house, on the roof. On this page, Laura sees that the snow is melting and she's really excited about it. And there was this part in the picture where you can see that the snow was melted, but it was really hard to see. So although it doesn't feel like grass, like I could have used something that felt more like grass, I really wanted the whole idea of the grass blades to be noticeable to the students. So I added some grass there.
it talks about a quilt, and I wasn't sure like the vocabulary that maybe some of my students would have if they would know that a quilt is a blanket. So I added some fleece where the blanket would be uh, as the quilt, because that's something that I was going to talk about. To Paul's hat, he wears a raccoon skin hat, but again, it's not something you would pick up from reading it. It's just something that you would pick up from the illustration. So I added like some fur, some fake fur material to his hat. And here is a snowflake because Laura picks a snowflake off of Paul. And this all plays into the part of the story that's talking about making maple syrup, which is what they're learning to do in the story. Paul brings home some maple syrup in a wooden bucket. So I added some popsicle sticks to the bucket. I wanted to make sure to point the difference out between a plastic bucket and a wooden bucket. Then, although I'm kind of like Dr. Lannon and I do not like the feel of sandpaper at all, I wanted something gritty because the book says that Paul brings home a maple sugar cake for Laura. I kind of wanted to build some concept development here because a maple sugar cake is not uh it's not a cake at all. It's like a piece of candy. So the sandpaper was because it was the closest thing I could figure out to use to make something feel sugary. It's also wrapped up in a package, like he hands it to her in a package, but this is not like a package that we're used to that comes in a box or gift wrapped. It just looks to be like wrapped up in a cloth napkin. So there's a piece of cloth here because I wanted to point that out. And I think that is, oh, the last thing I did is I did the buckets and then I wanted to distinguish the grandpa because grandpa is the one who has put the spile in the tree so that the tree and drained the sap and then he cooks the sap in an iron kettle. So I wanted to distinguish that character in the book as well. So that's kind of all I did to the book. My story box is a feed bag because in this time, I didn't have a burlap one, or I would have used a burlap one because that's really what it would have been. But in this time, sugar would have came in a bag, like a burlap bag, not the kind of package we get it at the grocery store. So that's the reason why I used a feed bag. Like I said, I was kind of pointing out the doll that Laura holds. So this was I know it's Raggedy Ann. It doesn't really look like the doll in the picture, but I thought the red hair would be good. And then I wanted it to be cloth. That was my main thing because Sarah, it's a cloth doll. It's not a plastic doll like we're used to these days. So that was the point for Raggedy Ann. And the book talks about Laura living in a log house. So I had some Lincoln logs, and I put Lincoln logs together. I glued them together so that they could feel what the different material that the house would have been made out of. And some things that I felt like that was important about is because some of the fifth grade social studies standards deal with using the materials that you have to build a shelter. So I wanted to make sure I pointed out that they did that. I got the rest of my cloth to talk about the package and how it was not in gift wrap or cardboard. It is fake, it's not real, but I have a raccoon skin hat so that we could use that with Paul. I actually made a maple sugar cake. It's really not hard. You just boil maple syrup down, but it talks about that in the book, how that's how Paul or Grandpa made the maple sugar cake, was he just continued to boil the maple syrup. So there's one here so that they could feel that it's hard, it's not spongy like cake. Then I've got a blanket, and it's the same material that I put in the book. At one point in time, which I knew it probably wouldn't be best, but I did want the kids to feel the bread and stuff, but the bread has molded. I obviously have not been back in this container yet, so I'd have to get some new bread. But Sarah or Laura puts her maple sugar cake next to her plate. So I have a little plate here because I wanted to work with like those prepositions next to on, because they also pour maple syrup on their bread. So I got those two things, and I wanted the kids to realize that bread does not always come out of a plastic bag at the grocery store, that they would have made theirs. Here is my grass for the when the snow is melting. They can see that it was melting, and Laura would have been able to feel the grass.
Wait,
I
wait,
have a
wait, wait.
hat
It's
for
Tracy.
the grandpa
Wait,
to just. I'm sorry. Yes.
what was that grass? What did you do?
I'm
sorry.
No, it's okay. It was actually something that I noted that I learned. If you go to church, the old ladies at church are great people to ask if they have anything that you need. And because their attics and their basements seem to just be filled with all kinds of treasures. And so I was talking to one of the elderly ladies at church about how I was looking for something like this, and she was like, "Well, I think I have something that might work." So yeah. Anyways, she had it. I don't know where she had it stashed. Well, she was in her basement, but yeah, I don't know where she got it from, but that's where I found it.
This is Misty. Those old ladies at church sound like my mother-in-law.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They were, and they were like, "Well, how did you do?" and everything. So it was great. So another thing I wanted to make sure that I focused on is I have an iron pot here, because an iron pot or a cast iron pot is much different from the pots that we typically cook in. I wanted them to be able to feel how heavy they are, and just how like they're rougher than the pots we typically have and use now. I'm almost done with this part, I promise. I have some maple sugar or maple syrup. It is maple syrup. But maple syrup, real maple syrup is vastly different from like log cabin high fructose corn syrup. So I wanted the kids to realize, this is what he was making. He wasn't making the stuff that you get in a plastic bottle. Most maple syrup comes in a glass bottle. A snowflake, just so we could feel the structure of a snowflake. Obviously, it's not cold like a snowflake. I have a spile because and this is even for your sighted kids. Like, I figured they probably did not have any idea what a spile was and how a tree was tapped to remove the sap from the tree. So I have a spile so that we could feel it and see it. And then Pa always plays his fiddle. And I couldn't figure out, like, I could have like had a violin, but none of those ladies at church had a violin that could just let me use. So I did kind of go like more to the sensory aspect, and I recorded a fiddle, a violin playing a song so that we could listen. And we can make the correlation that a fiddle is a violin. It's just a different name for a violin. Okay, and sorry, there's one more object. Like I said, the wooden bucket, most of the time when we think of a bucket, we think of a plastic bucket. This bucket is still plastic, but it has been textured to feel like wood. So I wanted to, because again, I wanted to talk about how they used what they had, and that plastic would not have been a resource that they had. Then most of my cards match the objects pretty much exactly. I did use the lid for the maple syrup. I tried to get one of those little jars from Cracker Barrel to fit on here, but it just wouldn't fit. So I just used the lid. the package is a piece of cloth, and it's wrapped around. I used like those caramels that you can buy, like not the hard ones, the hard ones, but you know, the ones that get hard after you've had them for years. Like they never mold, so they just get harder and harder. I used one of those for the maple sugar cake because I couldn't really figure out anything else. The iron kettle, you know, it doesn't look like a pot, but it does feel like the iron kettle. So I used it. Everything else is pretty much exactly what I used in the book. All right. You're muted, Misty.
Yeah,
If you're,
sorry, I
yeah.
was just talking away. Like, this is awesome. That is okay. So do you I have made you co-host if you want to share your presentation, or I can share it. What would you prefer? You're now muted.
I don't have, sorry, I don't have it pulled up, but I can probably pull it up pretty quickly. Give me just a second. Yeah, I can. I'm getting it. Okay, so where do I go to share?
You go to the back to Zoom and you hit the green arrow that says share. Just make sure when you go to share, there is a button that pops on the right that says share sound. You got to click it and then share your screen.
Okay, I'm not seeing, where would the green button that says share? Hang on, let me make it bigger. Oh, I see it now. Okay, it was just, and you said share sound.
Yep, it should be on the right underneath like an
Yep.
image.
Okay. All right, so hang on.
If you hit the bottom little
Oh,
thing
yeah,
that
I
was
can
like a
just do it down there,
presentation.
can't I?
I'm trying to click on it, but it won't let me.
Yeah, there we go. I think I got it. There we go.
Sugar Snow
Okay.
by Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Are you guys like, is it working right?
Yes, we hear it.
Okay, excellent.
Once upon a time, a little girl named Laura lived in the big woods of Wisconsin in a little house made of logs.
So something I did to the pictures, because almost all the pictures involve faces, is I made the lips red. I don't know if that would be beneficial, but I was hoping that it would at least give the kids some kind of visual target. So I did that. I won't play through every page.
Laura lived in the little house with her pa, her ma, her big sister Mary, her baby sister Carrie, and their good old bulldog, Jack.
So there was a sound on that one.
Spring was coming to the big woods. For days, the sun shone and the weather was warm. All day the icicles fell, one by one, from the little house into the snowbanks.
So that one was the icicle falling.
Then one day, that night, Laura woke up shivering.
I don't think there's not one
Her
on this page
nose was
either.
icy cold. In the morning, Laura looked out the window.
Oh no.
And the ground
Okay.
was covered with soft, thick snow. Said, and you'll get warm, stamping the soft snow from his boots. It's a sugar snow, he said.
Yeah, so that one kind of had the sound of boots stomping because it talks about him stamping the snow off his boots.
Laura quickly tasted a snowflake from Pa's sleeve, but it didn't taste like sugar at all. Why is it a sugar snow, Pa? She asked. Pa said he would explain tonight after he came home from Grandpa's.
And this was one of the things that I thought was hard to see, and I think I did it on another page too. So I did put this red circle around it. It probably would have been better had I outlined it like Tracy had done with the mitten and her book, but that's what I thought about.
It was late when Pa came home that night. He came in with a big bucket and two little packages. He gave the bucket to Ma and the little packages to Laura and Mary. The bucket was full of dark brown maple syrup. When Laura opened her little package, she found a little hard brown cake with beautifully supper was ready after
Okay, sorry, I pushed the buttons.
As he sat by the fire,
I didn't mean to.
while they his day at Grandpa's on and their sugar snow.
So you can hear like this one, they're sitting on Pa's knees by the fire. So there was a fireplace, like you kind of heard fire crackling behind it.
All winter, Pa said, Grandpa has been making wooden buckets for the maple syrup. When the first warm weather came, he took the buckets out into the woods and put each one by a maple tree. After all the buckets were full, he boiled all the sap in a big iron kettle until it turned into maple syrup. Then he cooled some of that sweet syrup into cakes of hard brown maple sugar.
And then that one, like if you hear it closely, like there's some crickets in the background because this fire would have been outside. So it did sound a little different.
Is that why it's called a sugar snow? Because Grandpa made sugar? Asked Laura. No, said Pa. It's called a sugar snow because a snow at this time of... Then it was time for bed. By the time Laura and Mary had washed their sticky fingers and were snug in their beds, Pa and his fiddle were both singing them off to sleep.
And then you got the fiddle playing again. So there you go.
Oh, I love the fiddle.
Awesome. Amazing.
So,
Here, I'll do it again.
Thanks. Thanks. I guess I gotta quit sharing now. Oh, here it is. Okay, I see it now. Stop. That's not what I want. Stop share. There we go. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Brandy, you did a great job. Thank you for sharing. A little more awkward than doing it in front of the class like everyone else. So kudos for you.
But I was bummed. I was bummed that I missed yours because I knew yours would be over the top, and I did the late checkout and had to go. And so I was kind of sobbing just a little bit.
Oh,
But now
there
I'm
you go.
not.
Now you're not. Yeah.
Well, I know you all, this is Misty. I know you all worked all very hard on these things and you all have done so good. I brag so much about how awesome you all have done. So if someone felt like they didn't get the time they deserved, please let me know. Brandy did not. I just wanted to make sure, and Tom, but Tom's not on here, that she had the amount of time like everyone else. So I'm gonna make it fair and show how awesome you all are. Okay, if you all have any questions, you're welcome to hang on and talk about it, but if not, you all are free to go. So don't join Zoom this next week. I will not be on there, or the week after that, okay?
Okay.
Someone always does.
Text you. They'll text you and say, "Where are you?"
I'm gonna hold myself back. I hope you're doing
I
something
think we
fun.
should all
everybody's doing
text her
something fun.
the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks and say, "Where are you? We're like dying for class right now.
I'm not doing
What is
anything
happening? We miss our Misty."
I mean, I will be around. I'm observing student teachers both the weeks because you all have 2 different weeks, like a lot of people. So I'm getting them in.
There you go.
Yeah.
I never get observations from you. You're not my person. That's not fair. Brandy
Well,
gets you.
Yeah, she does.
Brandy gets you. That's just not fair. I mean,
I
I'm
was
just
saying, so will you be in Pulaski County next week?
I was supposed to be in Pulaski County tomorrow, but we rescheduled. So, I will be in Pulaski County April the 16th in the morning.
Okay.
But if you need me
Do
to
you
come
have time
down,
to stick around, or do you just have to observe and leave?
no,
Okay. All right.
well, on April the 16th, I have to be in Wayne County in the afternoon.
Okay.
But I can
Okay.
schedule you if you need me a day to come see you, visit with
I
you,
got
and talk to you.
I got a preschooler that I'd really like for you to see and give me some some feedback on. So but she's an afternoon preschooler. So anyways, we can talk about that later. Thank you very
An
much. Just
afternooner, not on
yeah.
Fridays.
Yeah, exactly.
I know preschool
Right.
schedule.
They are the hardest ones to see because they're only there for half the day and not on Fridays.
Yep.
They
Yep. And they get out soon too. They get out earlier than everybody else.
yeah, so they're difficult to fit in. But anyways, just I'll email you though. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thanks.
Hi, Misty.
Yes, Katie.
Is class dismissed?
Yes.
That was the first time I've ever seen a children's book version of Little House on the Prairie, but it was really cool.
I know. I hadn't seen it either. Brandy has the coolest stuff. She's very earthy. She also does a lot of baking and sells baking stuff too. It's really cool.
I was wondering, sorry, I grew up on Little House on the Prairie. Absolutely loved their books. Got to go see the Little House on the Prairie Museum. It was pretty awesome. I lived in Wisconsin for a little while, so pretty cool. But
that is cool.
I was wondering, for some reason, I don't know if it's my computer, sorry, or my hearing or what, but your voice sounds quieter than usual today. Do you have some allergies or something, or is it your earbuds or?
I have my earbuds in, but I got a new computer today. So that might be the issue. Hold on, let me try something else.
Yeah, the captioner's helping a little bit, but
Okay, hold 1 second. Let me switch headphones.
say it again.
Let me switch headphones real quick.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me better?
That's better now.
Okay, that is just my computers. Let me go over here and try the headphones now and see which one sounds better.
You sound nice and loud now. Before you were so quiet.
You should just text me in the middle of class and I will text me in the middle of class and I will make on the fly modifications, okay?
Sounds good. That would be helpful. I can do that. I just don't want to interrupt class to draw attention to things, but I feel like a lot of the accommodations that I normally have kind of went out the window today, so I had to kind of push for a few things. So,
Yeah.
I'm just like specifically identifying ourselves before we speak. Sometimes that takes a little habit, a little reminder. Um, it's fine when it's just one-on-one with the two of us, but when we have new people, new presenters, it's very easy to forget what we do to promote accessibility in class.
Right.
What were you trying to tell me about the graphics, the pictures in her presentation?
The presentations, she's just taken screenshots of things. It's not accessible, and actually they're upside down in a hot mess. So what I am working on right now, what I've been working on during class is just creating a Word document with each of the slides described for you.
That sounds great. I'm very curious to try using Picture Smart. Dr. Lannon taught me how to use Picture Smart, so I can try a little with that. But I am just surprised that professors that are preaching accessibility and run programs on accessibility for kids with disabilities have presentations that are not accessible.
And she's the deafblind coordinator. But let me phrase this, okay? She has no TVI or DHH background, I don't think. So her
Okay.
background is early childhood.
Not saying that's an excuse, but
I know. And she's retiring, so.
And you're taking her job, right?
Nope. Donna Carpenter that you met last week is taking her job.
Donna Carpenter's taken on the whole world already.
Yes.
I don't know how she even gets any sleep at this rate.
I don't know.
I'm sure she manages though. So you're gonna be on spring break next week?
Yes. But not really. I mean, the students are going to be on spring break, but I'm not. I'm seeing all the student teachers.
Sorry. That sounds like fun. Actually, it does. I'm sure you enjoy. You enjoy watching your students in action?
Mm-hmm. I do.
You do. Is this your first time observing student teachers?
No, I used to work for colleges and would work with traineeships and observe them, but not as like their professor. I was just their mentor teacher.
So this is new. Watching your own students as the professor, observing TBI students in action and what you've taught them, that's pretty exciting.
It is, yeah. I get excited when I get to go out and observe you all too and see you implementing things that you've learned in class.
Right, you're coming to Minnesota next year and you're excited about that, right?
Yeah, I would love to if Dr. Lee allows it.
Actually, didn't you say you've been to Minnesota before?
Only to the airport. We
That
had a
doesn't count.
layover.
Come in February, that's the best time.
How about July?
I'm hoping to graduate in May of 2026, but that's a dream right now.
That's not too far away.
It's hard to believe how fast time flies, that's for sure. So I want to make sure I understand the expectations for the upcoming projects because I missed part of that class when you talked about the CBI kits because I had a work-related event that night. And I want to make sure that I'm completing everything correctly. CBI means critical visual impairment. We've talked a lot about it this semester. And when we talk about kids with CBI, they don't just have visual impairment. They have all kinds of other, should we say, barriers, right?
Correct.
So what are you looking for in the CBI kit? When I think about it, it looks kind of like a sensory kit. 10 different items that could potentially benefit a student with CBI.
So the things that I showed as part of my CVI kit, I had a pinwheel.
Why?
because when it provides movement, and then you add a flashlight to it, and it has the student's brains go around the dorsal stream part of their brain that they're having a hard time being able to process. It sort of goes around the dorsal stream. So it tricks the brain into seeing. So anytime you add movement and light and solid colors, it will make the brain want to look at the object. So that's why the pinwheels are good. A flashlight is good. You also can trick
Hold
the
on.
brain.
When you say flashlights, pinwheel lights, didn't we talk about kids with CBI have a tendency to have seizures or be very sensitive to changes in light?
So you want to ask them before you start showing them flashing lights or spinning lights. You want to make sure that they do not have seizures caused by lights. That's always the first question I ask. Does your child have seizures? What causes them? And if they were like, oh, it's from flashing lights, then we don't utilize the flashing light, but you can still use the flashlight to spotlight items to draw their attention to.
But you never flash it in their eyes.
Right.
Okay.
So I hold the pinwheel and then hold the flashlight in front of it and spin the pinwheel in a dark room, and it makes the pinwheel just light up and it draws their attention. Also, anything that has a mylar color to it, so a spoon, the back of a chair in a classroom usually has mylar, mylar balloons. You shine a flashlight on that and it's very reflective and it will draw their attention to it. So you could have a mylar, a mylar balloon in your CBI kit. The red noses, that was one of the things I had in my CBI kit so that it draws their attention. It sort of anchors them towards the face for you to look
What
at.
did you say it was called? What
What'd
was
you
the
say?
last one?
The clown nose, the red clown nose.
You can get them at Walgreens.
I gave one to almost everybody in person. I think I gave one to you, Katie.
No, you didn't. I kept wanting one and I kept wanting to ask for it, but I forgot.
So I get the red noses at Walgreens or Hobby Lobby. They have them in the party sections. You can get they have like a clown, like if you go to the decorations for parties, and there's a clown like carnival section, and that's where the red noses are. But I could probably mail you one too.
Dr. Lee, I don't think she mailed my kit of tactile story box and things yet. So maybe
Okay.
you can slip it in that if
Yeah, so
possible.
also, this is just a presentation. So you don't technically have to have these items. I would love it if you did because you're going to need these items when working with students. But you could just have a presentation. If you have the items, you can just present it, but we want it in a presentation too, so you can if you don't have something, you could just get a picture and put it on there.
Basically saying this is what I would have for my CBI students.
Yes, but I highly recommend you get some of those eventually when you start to work with students, okay? Because you're going to need this stuff.
Okay.
A black tablecloth or just a black sheet or black construction paper, or you can go to the Dollar Tree and get one of those black plastic tablecloths. Those will do really good to help kind of reduce the clutter in the room or on their table. So that is always something I include in my CVI kit.
Mm-hmm. And gives high contrast.
And yes, and it makes things high contrast. Yeah. Red lipstick.
Lipstick.
So it brings the attention to the eyes. You can also get one of the things I got at Valentine's Day was a red it was like a heart that goes on your head. Like a I don't know, a headpiece that had red hearts sticking up. So that would bring their attention up to your face again. Um so anything that might be shiny is always really good too. So many things.
So basically things that kind of draw the eye and keep the attention on you.
Yes. And what's really nice about black construction paper is you can cut out, if you had a worksheet that had a lot of questions on it and you just wanted them to focus on one thing on the worksheet, you can cut out little squares in a construction paper and have the construction paper lay over the worksheet and only have just one problem available at a time for them to see.
Mm-hmm. Little black, yeah, that makes sense. I, do you have a full like example of everything in Canvas that you just talked about or no?
Yes, so it is in the presentation. Let me pull up the class.
Because you did a whole presentation on CBI.
Yes. And I did an example of my CVI kit. Oh, it was February 27th.
That's right.
And the presentation is Behavior Spring 2025. But at the very end of that presentation, we talk about my example of a CVI kit.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay. I can tell you I probably do not own a bottle of bright red lipstick. I've been told that bright spread or super dark colors do not look good with my fair skin. So
The student will never judge you. You know what I mean? Like people will, but kids do not. They won't say anything. So
that's true, especially for something like that, what you're wearing.
yes.
In terms of especially when you're working with students. This is probably off topic, but I recently saw the post on Facebook about like parents, moms, kids at aquatic centers, water parks. It was basically saying that women need to stop wearing thong bikinis to kids' water parks when they're surrounded by kids. And
Yeah.
somebody commented, honestly, the kids probably couldn't care less. They won't know the difference. It's other people that will actually notice.
That's true.
Thong bikinis around kids, really? The craziest things that come up.
Yeah.
And then the resource guide. You answered this question already, but I'm just thinking about I'm gonna have to really just put the resources that you shared with me together there. I honestly feel like this is something I probably should have looked into at the very beginning of the semester when we talked about upcoming projects. It would have been easy if I was doing this all along. But I am kind of confused about, so you said that I can just take a screenshot of the resources that I have and put them in like a Google Sheet or PowerPoint. What? Tell me a little more, because I've done a resource guide before, but they're always different.
So what they want you to do for this resource file is you save your resources to your bookmarks on your computer. And then you screenshot your bookmarks into a PowerPoint or a Google slide. And you list out how many of each one you have.
And we need 50, right?
Yes. And so at the end of most of my presentations, I'll usually will provide you with resources, or throughout my presentations, I will link in some links so that you can just click on them and bookmark them. So like the CVI,
Oh my gosh, that would be so easy.
yes, so the behavior one that I have probably has about 20 resources in it alone. So it's a very easy assignment to do because I provide you throughout my lessons with a lot of resources.
Wow, okay. Because I remember in one of my undergrad classes, we had to put together a resource guide of over 100 resources for a vocational rehab program. That took a little while to do because we needed phone numbers, email addresses, all that stuff. So this is actually probably going to be easy to do within an hour, 2 hours most.
Yes. Yes, because we want you to walk away from our program having the resources you need to be successful, Katie.
100%. And I appreciate that completely. There are so many resources that you may briefly mention or not even mention, but you upload them to campus and they're valuable resources that may be underestimated.
So you're going to save them as bookmarks. Yeah. And you cannot use, do not use like TikTok videos or links to things on Instagram or Facebook. Now, there are some examples I have linked in from Facebook off of like Gwen McCormick, who is the positive eye lady that we talk about. But we do not want you to link in resources from like those things because they're not, very reliable resources. But so don't use those resources if you go through my presentations, but you can use any of the other ones.
Makes sense. So just pay attention and make sure they're not social media resources, basically.
Right. Yep.
Sounds good. And I guess what I'm asking about, does it have to be in a Google Sheet or Google Slides or presentation format, or can I submit it as like an Excel file?
How are you going to screenshot into Excel?
You have a point. But like copy and pasting the bookmarks into Excel with their names.
So what we've always done in the past is they have to screenshot a picture of the bookmark, like the actual tab open, so we can see that you have really done it. So it's proof that you have actually taken the time to save these bookmarks and have organized them in some way that makes sense to you. And then as you go through the program, when you get done, if you do 50 of of each of these for each of these classes, you're going to have like 1,000 resources. So it's important that as you go through the program, you organize it in a way that makes sense and that you create it in a program that will hold all of these resources because you will open up the same file, set whatever document or spreadsheet, which I don't recommend, but you might be able to surprise me on this one. I'm open for it if you can screenshot images into Excel. I've never seen that done before, but Katie, I'm not saying it can't be done. I don't know. But you add on to it each class. So you'll use the same document to submit for this class as you will for Dr. Lannon's class. And then in the summer for ECC class and technology class. So you just keep adding. So like you'll take maybe it'll just be 5 photos, screenshots of your screen, and then you list out like I have 5 related to CVI. I have 10 related to communication. I have 13 related to transition. So topics that we've covered in class related to multiple disabilities with students with visual impairments. Then you compose it into this, you'll start you'll start whatever document or slideshow, And that'll be your first slide will be Katie, your name, and then how many of each that you have. And then you'll do a screenshot of each of those so that I can quickly just glance and be like, oh yeah, you have, 5 of CVI and 10 of communication. Like I can see it right away. But you also want to add alt text so that Dr. Lannon can also hear it, okay?
Makes sense. Okay. And honestly, I am thinking about like adding Minnesota resources too. So for example, Dr. Donna Carpenter gave us the Kentucky Deafblind Project.
Right.
I might also add the Minnesota Deafblind Project just because these are resources that are going to be valuable to me as well.
Listen, you add Minnesota, California, New York, each of those have resources that I pull from. The Texas School for the Blind, they have phenomenal resources. West Virginia, I mean, you can link as many as you want, like bookmark all the states. Because each one
What
of
is
them has a website with resources.
Cool. What is the incredible connection with the Texas School for the Blind? I keep hearing it referenced over and over again.
So the Texas School for the Blind has amazing amount of resources that you can go to. So their website, if you go to their website and you just search something on it, say, I wanted to know more about CVI. It would bring up all the CVI stuff they recommend, but they've also developed their own type of stuff too. So they have their own type of communication devices that are like the tactile communication cards, but they're like the Texas School for the Blind version.
Wow.
And a lot
Have
of
you ever been there?
So I went to the Deaf Blind Symposium hosted by the Texas School for the Blind a couple years ago.
How was it?
That's in Austin, Texas, but not at the Texas School for the Blind. I have never been to the Texas School for the Blind, but
interesting.
The Deaf Blind Symposium was hands down the best conference I've ever been to.
Really?
Yeah, I learned so much.
I'd love to hear more about it when we're in person. I know it's getting late, so I want to be mindful of that. And I'm sure you've met thousands of people over the last few years, maybe hundreds of people related to the deafblind world in one way or another, especially with your deafblind certification. But one of my biggest mentors in school at FSCME, and then even now afterwards, I kept in close contact with her. Her name is Ashley Delia. But Ashley is the president of the Deafblind Project in New Jersey. And she currently lives in New Jersey. She has a lot of amazing and incredible advice and experience when it comes to deafblind.
How do you spell her
I
last name?
wasn't sure. Go ahead.
How do you spell her last name?
Dallia, something like that.
Okay.
Doesn't ring a bell right now?
No, but I'm writing it down to look it up later.
Yeah, she's one of my closest mentors, but she actually knows Donna Carpenter, but then again, Donna knows everybody, so. It was so funny, Misty. I don't know if you heard the story about Donna. We were at the same deafblind Southeast Transition Institute summer program. What do they call that? Deafblind camp. I can't remember what the leadership camp was called. But anyway, we were in Kentucky together back in 2015. And I told her that I was there, and she was like, no, you weren't. I was there. And then I started listing out all the details of what we did, what we ate, We went to visit the Derby Museum, the Kentucky Derby Museum. I listed out what we were wearing on our t-shirts, what we made, all the team building activities we did. And she's like, I cannot believe you were there and I don't remember this. And then she started going through her photos, and sure enough, she found a picture of me there.
Ah, that's so cool.
It was just funny, the people that we come across that we don't expect to see 10 years later.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why you want to make those connections because you never know when you're going to need the resources from them.
She's a phenomenal person. I apologize if I was a little more quiet in class today. I just was letting our presenter present, and honestly wasn't feeling too good. So I was laying down with my weighted blanket, listening to the class with my Bluetooth headset. I don't need to have my camera on to pay attention, but some people prefer to be able to see who's actually listening.
Yeah.
We all have different needs. Sometimes I actually focus better when I'm doing something with my hands. So if I'm doing laundry, I am giving my full attention to class versus the laundry because I'm actually moving my hands and doing something.
I get it.
It's
I'm the
kind of,
same way.
say it again.
I'm the same way.
You're the same way. You can't sit around for hours, and yeah, it's I feel like a sensory thing too. Are you traveling for spring break besides student teaching?
Just around Kentucky.
Okay, so you'll be available if I text you with any questions.
Yep, I'll be available.
Okay, I think I got everything else covered. Thanks for making everything clear. Are you teaching any of the classes this summer?
Yes, Dr. Lannon and I are both teaching ECC and assistive technology.
Wait, so Dr. Lee's not teaching any of the classes?
She might hop in from time to time to teach something, but for the most part, it's just me and Dr. Lannon.
The fun teachers. Okay.
But Dr. Lee has never had a
Don't tell
summer
Dr.
off.
Lee I said.
Go
ahead.
Dr. Lee has never had a summer off, so she's going to try to take a little step back this summer.
Good luck on that one. She's kind of a workaholic. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
I mean that in a good way, but we had a meeting this past week, trying to get my observation hours going with the district TVIs here, and she was talking about her summer schedule, and I said something along the lines of, what about our summer break? There goes our summer break. We only get 1 week off. She's like, if you want to buy me a summer vacation, then I'll give you a summer break. I don't think I have enough money in my bank account to buy Dr. Lee's entire summer vacation.
That's right.
But Misty, I wanted to let you know, I feel like this class is the least stressful class I've ever taken in graduate school.
Is that good or bad?
That's wonderful. Like, I mean, I'm growing a lot from this class. You're teaching us a lot, but we're doing it in a way where we're not overwhelmed with constant stress, that we feel a sense of motivation and joy in actually doing the work.
Oh, thanks, Katie.
I'm serious. My other class is just like, I love the professor, but 4 hours to answer 15 questions is a lot.
Yeah. That's
Like,
a lot.
the stress that many of us students deal with, some of our classes is a lot, but Misty's class is the most fun and the least stress provoking.
Hopefully that means you'll remember it.
Say it again.
Hopefully that means you'll remember what I teach you.
That's good. Yeah, you're actually teaching us in a way that makes us feel motivated. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank
I'm not saying your class is too easy. It's not. We're learning a lot from it and we appreciate this. It's just not overwhelming us with constant stress.
Well, I want you to be successful and learn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
I know a lot of my peers kind of complain about Dr. Lee, and I'm not going to be one of them because I think Dr. Lee has a really big heart. She cares about her students, and she would not be bringing donuts for the entire program if she didn't like us. I just think people should quit complaining about her and appreciate the work she does for us.
I didn't know people complained about her.
Then you probably don't want to hear the details, so I'll spare them. But I think the biggest thing is a lot of the students complain more about like the braille involved with the work. Like Dr. Lee is very, she sets high standards because she wants us to perform the best of our abilities. She wants to see the best of the best for our work. And so if it's not high graduate level standards, she'll send it back with very proactive and very strategic feedback for helping us improve. And I think some students are like, we gave this the best we could. Now we have to do more. But I just think Dr. Lee wants to see the best of the best for us. So I appreciate that in her. She wants us to give quality work that's going to help our future students to see it. So I look at it in a positive way.
That's good.
Huh?
You're
She's the queen of UEB.
She is. She's the queen of Braille.
And yet she doesn't read it on a daily basis herself, does she?
She is something. She does not read it on a daily basis, no.
But she knows how it should be and the best for the students. So what were you gonna say? You love my positive attitude or something?
I love your positive attitude, yes.
Maybe I should give a little pep talk to my classmates when they start complaining about the perfectionist. But that's Dr. Lee. So Misty, I'm gonna let you get going, but thank you so much for staying with me for a few extra minutes and hearing all my complaining and groaning. And I wasn't complaining, I'm just joking.
You had great questions. Yes, you had very great, meaningful questions. I'm glad we were able to clear some of that up.
Thank you.
And please tell me if you get into doing the resource file and you find it to not be something that you can do because of the visual, or just let me know and we'll try to work something out. Okay, Katie?
I will do that. I remember at the very beginning of the program, Dr. Lannon and Dr. Lee were talking about bookmarks. And I looked into it a little bit, but I was wondering why they were going into the details of it. Now I completely understand. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to put this together.
Yeah, well, and hopefully it'll be something you'll use later.
The other thing is, one last question. What does it mean to have a course audit?
I don't know. What does that mean?
Go ahead.
Where did you hear it from?
So, Dr. Lannon was talking about how she really wished that I participated more in intro to the program course.
Oh,
because
yes.
there was so much great information that I might have missed out on that could have been valuable for me. So she said that we can always audit the course, and I'm wondering what that means.
I think that means you can sit in and listen to the content, but not have to do the assignments.
I see. Makes sense.
But clarify that with Dr. Lannon, because I've never had anyone ever do it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, your audio sounds great now. It's just sometimes when I can't hear you, I try to find other ways to access the information so that I'm still getting the full access, but it's not as easy. So now I know for the future what I can do if I can't understand what you're saying.
Yes, please, like you can email me, but I may not see the email until after class. But if you text me, I keep my phone beside me and it will alert me and I will try to do something different, okay?
Sounds great. How does that work when you're teaching a class and you're getting the alerts from your students asking questions related to the class or something, but then you get alerts from your daughters? Mom, what's for dinner? Mom, are you almost done so we can eat?
Um, it's challenging, but they're pretty understanding now.
Speaking of your daughters, I should let you go spend time with them and get dinner. So thank you so much, Misty. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm gonna celebrate my golden birthday tomorrow. So I'm gonna get all my homework done tonight so I can celebrate.
There you go. Yes. Is it okay? I'm working on this presentation right now. Is it okay if I email it to you tomorrow?
Of course.
Okay.
I'll be around till 1 o'clock when I'm getting my first facial at 28.
Oh,
Ever had a facial?
I've never had a facial.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please
And I'll
do.
tell you if it's worth $45.
Yeah. Let me know.
Sounds good. Yeah, turning 28 on the 28th. I call that a golden birthday.
That's the golden birthday.
Well, thanks so much, Misty. We're seeing our first 70-degree weather for Minnesota tomorrow, so that's extra special for me.
That's exciting. That's a good birthday gift.
Yeah, I get to wear my favorite dress for my birthday. Cool, lucky me.
Yeah. Have a good birthday, Katie.
Thank you. Have a good night, Misty. Have a great
Bye.
weekend.